Electoral Commission to withdraw the licenses of some political parties for failing to meet the regulatory standards.
The EC is very, very careful trying to balance, because if you really want to apply the rule to the letter, maybe we may end up having only one or two political parties in Ghana.
Growing unrest in the NPP stronghold of Ashanti region as the youth in Kwabre take on their NP and other government appointees from the area for abandoning them.
Someone should tell the NPP and government that those times that the party was in our DNA is over.
Man who used ice packs to preserve the body of his wife found dead in the toilet as police rescue unconscious children locked up with the bodies.
They were locked up in a room like for months. The state of the decomposition and the odor of the smell is not the best.
And government concludes modalities for the payment of cost of living allowance to public sector workers by end of this month.
Let's all take it that by end of August, public sector workers would feel COLA as part of their income.
This is John News Prime. We'll hear from the Deputy Employment Minister and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission as they sign a pact with intrastate organizations to reduce payroll fraud. Hello again, thanks for choosing us. My name is Ernest Manu. Now, police at Ebuakwan in the Ashanti region are looking into the strange circumstances that led to a man preserving the body of his wife with ice for several months. The man's own body was also discovered by the police in the family's bathroom, sitting on the water closet. Now, 2 children of the couple, aged 11 and 13, were also rescued in an unconscious state. Ohim of our security desk has the rest of the story.
The Jacksons, a well-to-do family, lived in a rented apartment at Malkro Plot 10 after the family relocated from the Netherlands about 7 years ago. They never socialized with other residents as they live independently. But after several months of not hearing nor seeing the Jacksons, the live-in neighbors lodged a complaint with the Ebuakwan police. The bodies of the couple were discovered in a decomposing state. Their 2 children were also found in unconscious state. They were locked up without food and water in that 2-bedroom apartment for days with the decomposing bodies of their dead parents. The traumatized children of the deceased are currently on admission at the Ebuakwan Polyclinic. Dr. Mensa Manye is medical superintendent.
They were brought in unconscious. It was a long month of traumatization in which, from what I gathered from the police, they were locked up in a room like for months. The extent of the decomposition and the odor of the smell is not the best. But I understand the man put an ice pack on the woman on the floor. That one too, I can't tell what he was trying to do. And he himself died in the washroom whilst, going to toilet. That's the water closet, I mean. So the children as a whole, they were brought in unconscious, very weak, dehydrated, very, very dehydrated. So that was the state they came in to the hospital. So I assembled my emergency team because they need a resuscitation. That is to give a lot of fluid. If there need be, you give some antibiotics so that we can always save the life of those 2 children. When you lose a lot of fluid, up to a certain percentage, your line or your veins collapse. So we're finding it difficult. Finally, we had it and resuscitated them.
Police say it has been difficult connecting with the families of the deceased. The children have been referred to the Social Welfare Department. Meanwhile, Dr. Manye is recommending psychotherapy support for the children.
To see your parents dead, both in the same room, and the trauma. Even they accuse we adults and not being able to even go out. You are not able to go out from the presence of your parents. You see them decaying. You see them getting rotten. The odor is coming. As time goes on, because the elderly one could not still actually talk well. I don't know if it's because of the trauma. Maybe some psychologists may come in to actually talk to them so that they can, before they can get out of that situation.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Oyeminteria reporting.
Let's get some more on this story. Oyeminteria joins us via Zoom. There's some development on the story. Oyemin, we're learning that the families of the couple have reached out to the children after we aired the story. Tell us more.
And today, the mother of the late Mrs. Jackson, Madam Lydia Boachi-Benson, visited the multimedia office in Kumasi following the airing of the report. She first came with an in-law and did indicate that indeed the late Mrs. Jackson, whom she described as 41-year-old Celestina Ajama Boachi, she said was born in 1981. According to her, the first child, she is the one who helped her first child to travel to Netherlands, where she met the late husband, Mr. Samuel Jackson, whom we are reporting his demise as well. So a few years ago, they lived happily as a family, and until one evening, the daughter visited her in the family house, and the following day, she had a call from the daughter indicating that henceforth, or since that day, she was severing the relationship or any contact with the family. So since then, the mother has not an eye on her daughter and has no idea where she has been living with the husband. As when she came to the office, is very distraught, in very disturbing mood. She cried throughout when she gave all these details and said she was very, very, very surprised to hear that her daughter has died in that bizarre circumstance. And so this afternoon, accompanied by the in-law, they went to the Electoral police station and also with the police assistance and managed to see the children who have been on admission at the Electoral Polyclinic. And they were very, very, unhappy to see the current state of the children. They see were very, 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 healthy, and now they have grown lean and very skinny as well after they were left in that particular apartment for several months without food and water.
All right, so Oyemin, you spoke to the mother of the deceased. We can now take that clip, and then when we return, we'll go into the details of your conversation with the brother-in-law.
It's very bizarre.
Why me the Lydia Boachi-Benson. Lydia Boachi-Benson.
Oh, Bano.
Me Bano. Me Bapeno. And there's Tina Jama Boachi. And I say, what didn't you Jackson? So they are social, they are natures, and I know over here your kind. So, you were 1981. 81.
41.
1st September 1981. And I'm a woman, brand.
Breveno or Papa.
Oh, Wareno. Man for my quarter man could be better. And your conqueror, quiet and Wadian. And your quiet and Wadian. 2008. By China.
To Warren or Ghana, and your average.
That be Warren one crank.
No we now hands on moko.
There be one more the Oma maybe.
Okay.
Oma maybe Obano uncall for Berman uncall for no attempt to Munina, yes, here me anti fear or a friend say. And crying, and you're quiet.
Not Obano or Hanon or Netherlands.
No million an hour.
Oh, now Ban.
No money, and to my phone buy.
So that's mother of Mrs. Jackson, who died, whose body was preserved with ice pack by the husband, who was also discovered dead. Ohimin is still with me via Zoom. Ohimin, you also spoke to the brother-in-law who accompanied the mother of the deceased. Tell us more about your conversation with him.
Yes, Ernest, the brother-in-law of the late Mrs. Ernestina Jackson accompanied the in-law to the offices this morning following the airing of the story. And Fred Opon Boateng said it was the mother who actually sponsored the daughter to travel to Netherlands. So it was in Netherlands that she met the late Samuel Jackson and also talked of what he described as a very strange response from the late Ernestina that led to the separation from the family for a very long time. So he says the family was aware they were living somewhere in the Buakwa, but had no idea of where exactly they have been living. We can take a listen to him.
With the Buakwa police, the bodies of the
Sammy and then Kolan. It's okay. Ernestina Jackson, JC Jr.
That's the children.
Mamma Nini, Onona Banway, and I Nikununi, and Omuma and Kolan. Yeah, would they just look at my younger sister? Oh no. Yeah, Mama, yeah.
So we'll bring you more on this subsequently, but let's speak to a psychologist, Adolf Ewuku Bakwin, I beg your pardon, who joins us on the phone. Thank you very much, sir, Mr. Ewuku, for your time here on Joy News Prime. This is a bizarre story, and it must be traumatizing for the young boy who was also found in an unconscious state. How should this be handled?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. I think it is, my sympathies go to the family of the bereaved family. It is very bizarre, as you rightly put it. My concern immediately is to find out what is the current medical state of the child, of the children, because that is very important. What they have gone through will cause a lot of strain on their physical body. So presently, we need to very much ensure that the pediatrics are on them, working to ensure that physically they are okay. That is where the immediate care and attention should be focused on. Of course, we are not ruling out the traumatic nature of the experience, the fact that it would have a very severe toll on their mental health. That is true by all standards. It is not easy for children to go through this adverse childhood experience. Even for adults, our capacity to experience something overwhelming like this is minimal. We are unable to stand it. For children, it is going to really have a toll on them. It is already showing inability to speak, what we call mutism. The fact that the experience was so traumatic, one way it shows is their inability to talk. They lose their speech, and it is a symptom of extreme trauma that children would go through.
I guess the family, the mother and the other family members may also need some help, and hopefully, like we've seen in recent times, the police may send their team of psychologists to assist the family. But we heard in the narration that she suddenly appeared before the family and said that she didn't want to have anything to do with them. She was, breaking ties with the family. Is that a signal that ordinary people should pick up with their loved ones when they begin to make comments of the sort? And what could they be pointing to?
Well, I mean, we are social beings. Human beings, naturally, we are social beings, and therefore, a sudden severe that relationship definitely calls for questioning. What has happened? Would we have to follow up to find out what is happening in her life? What is that? It is very important because you cannot just all of a sudden walk up to your relations and say, I don't want anything to do with you again. What occasioned that experience? Is it because something is happening? There are so many beliefs hovering around this time that I think as a people we should be mindful of. What kind of activities were going on in the where she lived with her family? People have bizarre beliefs, bordering on sometimes on the occultic, on some hyper-religiosity that in a way alienate them. They alienate themselves for maximum control. And for me, with my experience in violence, when women can be socialized by their spouses to sever all relationship with their extended family so that they can have absolute control over their spouse can have absolute control over them. That whatever is happening to you, you have nobody.
So it is definitely a signal that we must pick up. Dr. Bequin, I'm grateful for your time here on Joy News Prime. We'll leave it here for now and we'll see how this pans out. But violence against women in connection to witchcraft continues to rise in the Northeast region. Despite President Akufo-Addo's intervention to end the menace, the president in February this year sent a delegation to the region led by his special advisor on gender and development, Angela Asante, after a Joy News report exposed how 2 women from the Mamprasi East community had been accused of witchcraft and subjected to severe torture by a Togolese priest. However, authorities at the Gambaga witch camp say nothing has changed since that visit from the presidential delegation. Correspondent Ilyasu Tanko reports.
This is a Togolese priest abusing 2 Ghanaian women from the East Mamprasi community of Sakogu in a so-called special rituals to force them to confess to the allegation of witchcraft that was leveled against them by some members of the community who had forced them to the camp at Barokosi in northern Togo. 3 months earlier, more than 20 women from the town of Nakpanduri had been held in the camp and tortured over similar allegations. The incident, which occurred in February this year and was reported by Joy News, attracted the attention of President Akufo-Addo and provoked him to immediately react by dispatching a delegation under his special advisor on gender and development, Angela Asante, to meet with the regional stakeholders to convey his anger and demand a lasting solution to the heinous practice. The fact-finding delegation in the region held separate meetings with the Regional Security Council. Following that meeting, the overlord and president of the House of Chiefs said this during a House of Chiefs meeting in March.
I wish to serve a caution to some of our so-called pastors and madams who have become recalcitrant and have made it a business by identifying witches and wizards and also make them tin gods without recourse to the laws of the country.
In the same month, during the Independence Day celebration, the chairman of the Security Council and the regional minister also issued a warning to deal with the perpetrators of the practice. However, according to authorities of the Gambaga witch camp, the practice has shown no sign of improvement. Samson Lare is a coordinator of the camp.
Actually, there has been an increase after the visit of the Parliamentary Select Committee. We have really I don't know what to say, but we are surprised. Just of recent, we have recorded 6 women and 1 man again, just for some few days. And this is really alarming.
According to the coordinator, a woman was attacked and chased out of her community in April.
Let's go to Zoom now. Francis Xavier Soso is MP for Medina, and he's one of 3 MPs sponsoring a private member's bill to have this criminalized and addressed. Mr. Soso, I'm grateful for your time here. You and 2 other colleagues are sponsoring a private member's bill to criminalize the act. Where are we on this?
Thank you very much for having me, and a very good evening to your cherished viewers. Let me say that we are doing quite well with the bill. You would realize that the bill seeks to touch very, basically address aspects of people's belief and culture. And it means that if you would be successful in its implementation, then it's very important that you build a lot of stakeholder engagement. We've been doing multiple stakeholder engagement. The very last one, we traveled to all 5 out of the 6 which camps in the north to engage both women who have been accused, community leaders, as well as some Tindanes, which has actually refined the final draft of the bill. As we speak now, we are having a very final stakeholders meeting in October, after which the bill will be gazetted and read for the first time and referred to the appropriate committee of parliament.
So we are looking at somewhere next year, if this is to go through the full process after it's been laid, to have it passed.
Absolutely. In fact, our goal is to, in fact, before Parliament rose last week, we were doing everything possible to see whether we could have it gazetted. But I must say that when we visited the field, it actually refined our understanding of the issue. I mean, it would shock you to know that there were women in some of the witch camps who were accused as being witches by pastors, like by religious leaders. I mean, so it was so strange for us. So that kind of expanded the horizon a little bit beyond just looking at the people who find witches as the typical traditional Tindanes or traditional priests and priestesses to some religious leaders, so-called maybe pastors, who may also be in the habit of trying to accuse people of witchcraft.
But I'm wondering if you've engaged the police on this, and I ask this because we have a few cases that the police purportedly is dealing with, but nothing really comes out of it, and you sometimes do not even get them to give you an update on the cases. Sometimes it's even difficult to apprehend the people who have been accused because of who they are in the community. Some are chiefs, some are opinion leaders. Have you spoken to them, and what really their challenges, and is this captured in the final draft?
Well, it is also captured because in our stakeholder engagement, we engage extensively with DOFSU, and then we engaged with officers of the Department of Social Welfare. We engage extensively with other CSOs who are working in the space, like the SANE Institute, as well as Action Aid. And I must tell you the fact that, see, the reality is that the accusation mostly are from very close relatives. I mean, we had cases where husbands are accusing their wives. We have cases where rivals accuse each other. So usually trying to get evidence and even get witnesses to be willing and ready to assist police to arrest is very, very difficult. So I believe that what is going to serve as deterrence is when this bill actually finally passed and people who are found doing that actually prosecuted under the law. As we speak now, you can charge people with other forms of offenses, like maybe threat, or like harm or assault, but you cannot charge them for the witchcraft accusation, which is what we are seeking.
Very well. Thank you very much, and we'll be following up on this. That's Francis Xavier Soso, MP for Medina. The Electoral Commission is warning it will revoke the license of any political party that will not meet the criteria for its ongoing political parties audit. The Political Parties Act demands that all parties have branches in all regions and must be present in not less than 2/3 of the districts in each region. In a bid to enforce the law, the EC says it will not spare any party or political organization that violates the regulation. Here's Dr. Bosman Asari, his deputy chairperson of the commission.
The EC is very, very careful trying to balance Because if you really want to apply the rule to the letter, maybe we may end up having only 1 or 2 political parties in
about going to that,
Ghana.
The duopoly between the NDC and the NPP.
So as an institution, we're also very mindful
right.
of what the Constitution requires of us. Constitution encourages multi-party democracy, plurality in our politics. So we must be very careful in having a balance in our system. However, it doesn't also mean that parties will just be existing in names, so that when you have an IPAC, they will just come, but you go to the district or the constituency level, they are not there. So at the highest level of the commission, we are looking at all this so that we'll come up with a clear framework which will say that because these parties don't meet criterion A or the following criteria, we are going to crack the whip and maybe give them some time to put their houses in order, or if they cannot do that, then they may end up being...
But the inference I'm getting also from your point is that finance appears to be a big challenge for, let me say, the lesser known political parties. Is that an admission on your side?
No, I think that, you know, to have offices in all parts of the country, currently Ghana has 16 regions. We have the national capital, Accra is also there. Then we have almost 267 or so districts, and the constituencies are 275.
Right.
So if a smaller political party will have to rent, you are looking at over 300 locations.
And let's find out how many political parties we have in the country and how many of them actually meet this criteria. We're joined via Zoom by Kofi Ajay, a data analyst with our research team. Kofi, walk us through the procedure. First of all, in registering for a political party, what does it take? Well,
Ernest, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
So the research desk, we've been gleaning data from the Political Parties Law Act, which says that, you know, the political parties must meet certain conditions before they can, you know, be contest for election. So amongst the conditions that they give, you know, Section 9 of the law, Section 9C says that the party must have branches in all regions. So in this case, we are talking about the 16 regions that we have currently, and then must also be organized in at least 2/3 of districts. So what does this mean? So we work the numbers. So assuming we have, you know, the 261 district that we have in Ghana, it means a political party must be organized in 174 districts and 16 regions. This, you know, bringing it to a total of 190 offices currently, probably in Ghana, that they have to meet to in order for them to be able to contest for elections.
And so, do we know, is it clear to us how many have actually complied with this directive or with this provision of the law?
But that's so difficult to determine, but we know the trend in terms of the increasing number of political parties that we have as a country. So in 1957, we had 8, you know, political parties contesting for the election, and this data we got from the CDD, and then also in 1966, the number reduced from 8 to 5, but by 1972, it had increased to 8, and then we had 11 in 1976. But right after the 1992, where we entered the Fourth Republic, we had 13, you know, political parties in the country, and currently we have 27 of them currently who contested for the 2020, most of them, you know, contested for the 2020 election. So if we do the math between 1992 to 2021, according to the data put out by CDD, we are looking at a percentage rise of more than 48%.
Thank you very much. The EC says it's doing an audit of the political parties. Let's see those who are going to make it, who are still going to be in the books, and those who are going to be deleted, essentially. This is John News Prime with me, Ernest Manu. We're taking a break. When we return, government concludes modalities for the payment of cost of living allowance to public sector workers by end of this month.
Let's all take it that by end of August, public sector workers would kill cola as part of their income.
We have details of this and more after the break. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. Now, there's an outpour of frustration and anger in the NPP stronghold of the Ashanti region. Considered the party's fortress, the NPP has won overwhelmingly in that region every election. But the people are now saying they are yet to benefit from their support for the party. Just a few weeks ago, the majority leader and MP for Swami, Osache Mensah, was attacked by his angry constituents who complained about the poor nature of roads there. Well, today, some youth in Kwabri East in the region have also held a news conference taking on their Member of Parliament, Francisca Otin Mensah, who has just been nominated as the Deputy Gender Minister, and all other MPs in the region. Listen to the Unit Committee Chairman for the Antua Electoral Area, Aminin Kwatin, who addressed a news conference today.
Kachire MPP ni oma ban ni se sa MPP na kan ni ese we DNA no and na free ho mo hye ne ya titiru Kwabri East.
Someone should tell the NPP and government that those times that the party was in our DNA is over. They've punished us severely, especially Kwabri East constituency. And the sad story is the MP for Kwabri East, a young woman that we elected with more than 71,000 votes. She has done nothing in the constituency. You are from Heyman, you attend cabinet meetings. What are you telling cabinet? What do you tell President Akufo-Addo? Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, you are from the royal family. What have you done?
So for like cry me asankebi and namunam namude asanteman sika any taxes e gene ha ye koka NPP communicators bitimi transika se asante enkoso nyina sebi ya na ebi kra ebi fa.
Look at Swami. Where is the interchange? Look at Anloga. Look at Sofoline. Look at Airport Runabout.
Nyamisi yenka. Sese ye meka nkyere mo se ye pamuche munye ya kwan. Ye ka kyere mo se mu beye omunye o. MPP do no ane ye wo mamu no afiri ho. Ye ni do bia mamu bio. Mo a mo hwe kwan anipa nam so. Mo hwe kwan anipa nam so na wo na adoda nko Akufo-Addo. Nyankopon kura ye de ni bu bese Nyankopon fere nase. Eya santikasa wasi nimpo na onabo maso ekofi dwuma ono so eye ne de ye de ne koto oge hokono ukrom ni antoa hwekwan
the taxes, the e-levy, is it Asantehene that collects them? MPP has disappointed us. We will no longer beg you to fix our roads. If you like, fix it. If you also like, don't fix it. We have no love for the party anymore. Look at the poor roads over here. You are disgracing Asanteman. Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, Osache Mensah, you have disappointed us. We have had no benefit from electing 47 MPs in this region. What have you done to Asanteman, Kwabri, and the youth of Asanteman? You will pay for it.
Pressure group ya semo ayeka enti na mu betum futu agu yani mu beye omunye omfe hu bio na kwan amode Asanteman ya faso kwan amode Kwabri man ya faso kwan amode mrante wa Asanteman mu nyina faso no edamani mu twem.
Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has been in the region for 2 days, cutting salt for the construction of inner city roads and commissioning some projects. Yesterday on PM Express, the Deputy Majority Leader, Alexander Fenyo-Markin, admitted that citizens are frustrated about the economic challenges. He advised his colleague NPP MPs and leadership of the party to communicate with the people, listen to their concerns and get them addressed.
So that is why.
That's why I'm putting to you. It's not a communication problem.
No, it is. You must, you see, for instance.
They don't want to hear the communication.
So
they want to see the results.
Yes, so.
They want to feel it. They want to see the result done.
I agree, Evans. If you communicate, and that communication is born out of good faith, and they see the tangibles coming in, definitely they will give you the benefit of doubt. That does not mean that if they have to pour out their frustrations, they will not. And to me, pouring out the frustrations amount to the bitter pill that will be on your lip, on your tongue, for you to know that all is not well, so go into action. It is the best thing any politician can ever get than to see silence. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And they surprise you on.
Your simple advice to your colleagues is communicate.
Let's communicate and take action. We cannot get everything done. So you added
a second line. Communicate and take action.
Of course, because you have to take action. Okay. And in taking action, get it. You can't do 100%. You would have to explain again why you cannot do all. So, for instance, if you come to Winneba, we are doing the bypass road. Okay? The Sankur, Inswechir, Warababa Jahazi road has been done. If Ansafo East and West are complaining that, Honorable, why haven't you done our roads? It is for me to explain to them that, look, Sikan Oruntumi Yeni Inara.
Now you can expect your 15% cost of living allowance to hit your account by end of this month. That's according to the Deputy Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Bright Okubobe. Demands for COLA resulted in weeks of labour agitation and industrial action, leaving government to commit to paying 15% of workers' salary. The workers had argued Western economic conditions had rendered their current salaries inadequate. Well, today, it has been confirmed COLA will be paid to all public sector workers beginning end of this month.
Yesterday, there was a tripartite meeting, and then the issue of COLA came up. And we spoke to Minister of Finance. The assurance is that from the end of this month, the COLA payment will commence. So let's all take it that by end of August, public sector workers would feel COLA as part of their income.
CEO of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Ben Arthur, says steps are being taken to address payroll fraud. He spoke to Joy News on the sidelines of a signing of a memorandum of understanding with the Internal Audit Agency.
Payroll fraud remains an issue of major concern to government. In a quest to stem the tide, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is teaming up with the Audit Agency.
This is a huge responsibility by all standards. The signing of this MOU is significant because the only way that the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission can fulfill this mandate effectively, given the resource constraints, is to form strategic partnerships with agencies such as yours, with like objectives, who are committed to safeguarding the nation's scarce resources.
Above all, it calls for bravery. Are we brave enough to undertake what we said we are going to do? That, to me, that is the main challenge. If we are ready to undertake it, and if we are brave enough to go ahead with it, then we're going to achieve something. But if we step back, awaiting instructions and directions from political leaders, I can assure you it will be a very nice signing ceremony, nice reporting of whatever we have done in coming up with this, but then there will be no effect.
Another recent labor issue of concern has been the cost of living allowance. Workers remain hopeful that they will receive the monies soon.